Well, then we'll go ahead and start the meeting. I did not want to start it until we knew everybody was good to go. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna figure out a way to where my phone will not, okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order at 1:05. For everyone who's here, thank you so much for taking the time out to connect to this special meeting. Hopefully it won't take too long, but we did want to get some things in order just in case if we are not able to meet past the month of August, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. First, we will have our roll call by our wonderful secretary, Linda. Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll do the roll call.
Oh, it's not morning anymore. It is. It's afternoon. I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
No, yeah, please don't make the day longer.
I know.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and call Natasha Wilkins.
Present.
Okay, Lori Mabry. I see you, Lori. Linda Brown, of course, present. Jack Jacobin. Okay.
Natalie just joined the meeting.
Okay. James Brown.
Present.
He's an excused absence today.
Oh, he's here.
James is
Yeah,
here.
I'm here.
Yeah, James is here.
She meant James.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay. April Meredith.
Present.
Okay. John Forbes. He's here. John is here, right?
John is here.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Debbie Chadwick.
Present.
Okay.
Yay, Debbie.
Patricia Valadares.
I am present.
All right. Thomas Hinkson.
Here.
Sheila Hanson. Roger Womack.
Present.
Okay. Bill Zagorski. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Zagorski, I'm here.
Okay. And let's see. Do I go through and call the MTA reps also?
You don't have to, but whoever is on here with the MTA staff, if you can just let us know that you're here with us today.
This is Miriam Leibowitz. I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks, Miriam.
Tanisha Durham, I'm here.
Who was that?
Tanisha Durham.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody. Okay. Okay. Okay.
This is Mary. I'm on via conference call, not on the Zoom meeting.
I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
This is on the uplink. I've joined via the
Okay.
conference.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
This is Stan Frankfurt. I'm also on the conference line.
And who was that?
Dan Freudwort.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You didn't call Kate Distler.
Huh?
You didn't call Kate Distler.
Oh, you know what? Let's see. Her name is not
on here. Yeah.
on the list. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll write it down.
Yeah. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, gotcha, Kate. And what about our Walter Searcy?
I don't see him on here.
Okay.
I don't see him on here.
Okay.
So we
And
have. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I've got the Taxi USA reps.
I don't think any of the reps are on here.
Involved.
I think
Okay.
that looks like everyone who is on the participant list has identified themselves.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kate, if you don't mind sending either myself and or Tanisha your contact information so we can get you added to our contact list.
Okay, are you talking to, I don't know if there's two Kates, because someone said Bixler, and that's not my last name, so I don't know if there's two Kates.
No, it's just you.
Okay, it's Deitzer, and I'll
Yeah.
send that. It's Deitzer.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, you're the Kate that I was looking for, Kate.
Okay, because I was looking at the closed caption and it said Bixler, and I thought, nope, that's not me.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So
Okay,
what did
so
you,
thank you.
I'm sorry, you wanted my contact info, is that it?
Yes, I have you on my list, but we just need your name, your email address, your phone number, and the indicator that you're a rep for Metro Nashville Public Schools so that we
Sure.
can get you added to our contact list, and then Linda will have your name on our roll.
Okay, would you want me to just send that to you in an email then?
Sure. And
I'll
then
be
I
glad
can forward
to.
it to Tanisha. Sure. Okay, great.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to move on to public comments. And before we start, just to help out our transcribing service, I'm going to ask that while you are not speaking, if you can keep your phone muted, that'll help out with the closed captioning and with the transcription moving forward. Because I got to read a transcription and now I understand the value of not having as much background noise. But if you can just keep your phone muted, but definitely if you have something to say or if you need to make a comment, just be sure to take your phone off mute and to share that. Do we have any public comments right now?
Yes, this is Roger.
Okay.
I had an issue last Tuesday. In my profile, I'm listed as having a PCA and a guide dog. When I called to schedule the ride, I did tell them that I would have a PCA and my guide dog. I was scheduled to be picked up 9:45 to 10:15. The driver showed up 9:13 from where I was already at and barely got out of the doctor's office at that time. And she seen that there was two of us, and she said, well, I've already got one on the bus. I can't take but two on the bus. And I knew it was three on the bus, but she wanted to talk over me and told me that she'd have to check with the dispatcher and everything. Okay, after she did, she said, well, this time we're going to take you anyway. And I said, well, you're early anyway. And so she took us out to the bus, and there was a wheelchair on front. She made us get on by the lift, which I told her I didn't feel comfortable. I could walk on the bus. My daughter went on the lift. Then myself and my guide dog had to go on it. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about the guide dog, but my guide dog could have got hurt. I wasn't comfortable. You know, the wheelchair could have been put in the rear where someone could have entered in the entrance, and I was told that I did not schedule it right, which I'm pretty sure by this time I do know how to. I did send put in a complaint. I haven't heard back from it, and I was treated very rudely and disrespectful, and I don't like to be disrespectful for the customer service people or the drivers or anything, but this was a major issue for me since she was already more than 30 minutes early for my pickup and everything. I guess that would be all I have to say.
Thanks for that, Roger, and thanks for putting in the complaint for that matter. Marilyn or Dan, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. This is Marilyn. I've actually been talking to our operations manager regarding this matter. We had a meeting about it this morning. Everything was actually on the manifest correctly. Mr. Womack was clearly noted as having a PCA and a guide dog. We are addressing it with the operator to ensure that that particular individual understands how to read that information correctly when it comes across the data terminal. With regards to having to go up on the lift, that if the wheelchair was already in the front and then that person was already on board, the operator may have done that to ensure and try and maintain some social distancing. But again, that's part of the complaint that we are to address with the operator within the next day or so.
I understand that, but you know, me not being able to see my guide dog's paws or nothing going up on it, that was more the concern on that issue, because something happened to him. The money that the leader dog trained him, and the money I put into him, and it, you know, and I did not feel safe going up that way. And we came off by the person in the wheelchair, and we were wearing gloves and masks too. So, you know, I don't, you know, I understand the social distancing issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Mr. Womack, I fully understand that. I mean, we're all trying to navigate what transportation is looking like in the times that we're in. So we're going to take this as a learning opportunity for the operator, for our dispatchers, and see what we can do going forward. But again, I have met with the operations management regarding this matter, and we'll be meeting with the operator in the next day or so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments from anyone?
Alert, audio now unmuted.
I just saw that Sheila just got connected when Linda did the
Hi, everyone.
roll call. She wasn't on.
Thanks, Patricia, and thanks, Sheila, for joining in.
Yeah, I was having technical difficulty and came in around 5 minutes late, and then I sat for another 5 minutes waiting to be let in.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong computer screen. I'm sorry about that, Sheila.
That's okay. I texted James and asked him to let you know to let me in. Oh, well.
Do we need to state that? I'm sorry, Natasha. This is April. Do we need to state, like, if there's quorum or something? I was a little unclear if we were voting on something today or what.
We do have quorum. I did not verbally state it, but I did definitely made a note of it before I called the meeting to order that we do have quorum. I do not think that there is anything that we would have to actually vote on today unless Debbie, who will be speaking to us about the bylaws, has anything to vote on. But I know that you, April, have another obligation. So I'll try to kind of get rolling as quickly as possible, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, do we have any other?
There's not anything to vote on. It's merely a presentation and asking for advice and counsel for the members. And I'm happy that Dan Florenberg is on, because he is someone who will work closely with us on this as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So I didn't hear any other public comments. I just didn't want to cut anyone off or anyone from the public that might be joining in with us. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on through the agenda. So we're at the point now where we're just going to talk about our plan moving forward, and then immediately following that, Debbie will speak to us about amending our bylaws. So again, I wanted to say to everybody who's here, because we almost have the entire committee here, which is phenomenal. Thanks for joining in. As you all know through the emails, the executive order, which gives us the ability to be able to meet virtually right now, expires on August the 29th. And just looking forward, I didn't want the committee to get to a point where we're kind of bound by the hands, meaning we possibly won't be able to meet in September. And I just didn't want us to kind of be left hanging, and we wouldn't be able to come together until another indefinite point of time. So the point of this meeting is for us to talk about some things, work through some things as a committee, so that we can kind of have a plan and a soft plan or a soft framework moving forward, so that way, no matter which way the coin drops, we will be able to still function and be effective as a committee, whether we're able to meet the rest of the year or not, if that makes sense. I just didn't want us to kind of be left hanging as a committee. So that's basically the plan for this meeting. I heard someone's audio come off mute. Does someone have a question or a comment? Okay.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Patricia, I just, regarding that, because it's so uncertain these days, and, if we are able to meet in person next month, in September, there might be some people that still, even if we're going to have, social distance established, by the health department, there's still some people that might be feeling that are not safe by going and meeting, even in that's the situation. So I don't know if we can have it, Denisha, if there's not going to be, if the no meetings is lifted out by the governor, if we can still have both options. I mean, if we're able to meet, if the people that feels comfortable to come to the conference room and meet there, and if there are any that does not, to have it also be able to have a virtual meeting. I mean, you can have a combination, if in case we are able to meet in person. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Mm-hmm. And that would be up to.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Natasha, you can continue.
I was just saying, I understand what you're saying. I was going to kick it over to you.
Oh, that would be up to whether or not the governor will extend it for us to continue to have virtual meetings as public meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
so we can always have that. Right, we can always add that in as a piece to our meetings. So we can do public and virtual.
Okay, that's okay. We'll see what happens, but we have the option of doing both at the same time.
Exactly, and that might take some steps and some things to kind of get all of that together, because I know firsthand working with Tanisha what all it took just to get this to come together. So that's why I wanted us to kind of be all on one accord, have a soft plan, understand where our focus is, so that no matter how things look in September and November, if the committee decides to meet in November, we're good to go. If we are not allowed to meet, we're good to go. If we are able to meet, we're good to go. If the executive order is extended and we're able to meet virtually, we're going to be good to go no matter what. So we won't be stuck. But that was a good question. So at least now we know that a hybrid meeting might also be an option that everyone might be comfortable with. And also to answer that, Patricia, just in case if we did decide to go that route, I did get that documentation or those instructions also from the comptroller's office, from legal counsel, as to their, I guess, I don't know if guidelines is the right word, but what we will need to do to set up an in-person meeting if the committee decides to do that moving forward. I have that as well, so that if you all decide to do that, I already have that documentation, so that we'll kind of know how many people can be in the room, what does the room setup need to be, and all of that. We already have that. Okay. Any other questions or comments about just our effective plan moving forward as a committee?
John Ford speaking.
Okay.
Natasha,
Yes.
I realize that it is important to meet in person, but I do believe that the bylaws should be able to make it flexible to accommodate the meeting by a statement that would read normally in person or Zoom or both.
Mm-hmm.
That way you would be able to cover if someone is unable to get to the meeting room physically.
Right.
Like, for example, me, I got to come by access ride. Wonder if something happened that access ride can't come pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in January, we could have an ice storm and it is not wise for me to get out due to my low vision. So I can connect by Zoom and be in attendance. It's just a thought.
No, that's a great thought. And that's a good point. And you're also in good company. And I believe, and Debbie can expound on this in a moment, but I believe that there is consideration for us as a committee to kind of add a component of connecting to the meeting virtually. Not necessarily having a virtual meeting, but have the opportunity to connect to the meeting electronically as an option going into our bylaws. However, I learned the hard way that what we can't do is say that we can have a virtual meeting. Because remember, that's what I, set off on a ship to try to do back in August, earlier this month, and say, wait a minute, let's get this added really quick to our bylaws and get it passed, or work on getting it passed before the executive order ended or lifted. But trying to go that route educated me on the understanding that technically the meeting itself, with the exception of the executive order right now, cannot be held virtually. However, connecting to the meeting might be okay. And if and when we consider this to be added to our committee bylaws, we will also have to run that by the board, and I'm sure we'll run it through legal steps as well to make sure we're in total compliance. But your comment and your thoughts are right on point. Anyone else? Oh, excuse me, guys. Does that make sense, what I just shared?
So.
Okay. All righty.
Now unmuted.
Yes, it makes sense.
Thanks, Patricia.
This is Debbie in the update.
Say that again. Say that again. I thought I heard someone.
I think Debbie said she was going to say something about that in her update.
Okay, Debbie, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, you're up next. If no one else has any plan, any discussion on where we are in the agenda, we'll move on. And so next we're going to talk about amending our bylaws, and then after that we're just going to briefly talk about growing and diversifying the committee. Debbie, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to first say that the members currently of the bylaw committee are Jay Brown, our past chair, Natasha, our current chair, Walter Searcy, who volunteered to serve, and myself. So we can have, I believe it's between three to five people are probably generally good working. So if anybody has a burning desire to be on the committee and help us, that would be great. So I encourage you to contact Natasha after the meeting and let her know, and she will communicate to us those that have an interest. We just want to make sure that we have the committee agile enough to be able to work. And of course, Dan Florenberg, I hope that he will continue on. He was very helpful to us the last time the bylaws were amended. So I'm not sure whether you have a copy of the bylaws before you, but there are, the purpose of the Metro Transit Authority Access Ride Policy Advisory Committee, APAC, is that it shall advise the MTA Board of Directors on the changes and improvements needed to pursue excellent transit service for the disabled or elderly of Davidson County. That is the current purpose. We would like to amend, and I'm just going to go through some amendments, some changes that we would like to make, and just so everybody's kind of on the same page and gets the logo and the lingo. Also, shall is required, may is optional. So always remember that. If it says shall, that is what it is, and there is no wiggle room. So what we want to amend that to is that the purpose basically the same, but there's some more person-centered verbiage on that. The Metropolitan Transit Authority Access Ride Policy Advisory Committee, APAC, shall advise the MTA Board of Directors on the changes and improvements needed to pursue excellence in the transit service, and this is where it changed, for people with disabilities or elderly people of Davidson County. So we kind of keep that. I think that if we can determine to Natasha what would be the best way, I guess the committee will kind of massage this and look at this with some input from others. Even if you do not want to be on the committee, please feel free to contact James and Natasha or myself with any ideas that you have. Section 2, there was some discussion at one point, and I'm not sure there are pros and cons on it, of adding agencies or organizations that should be listed that we need representation from. So that's our way of reaching out to the community, saying we want people from this segment to be, because we know they're riders, to be able to be represented on this committee. So that's a discussion as well. And I know that on section 4, it was that there shall be no more than 24 and no less than 12. And we had looked at changing that to no less than 18. Because again, it's really important to have the voices of our community, our ridership heard. That allows for consumers of the access ride product, WeGo, to be able to voice and have a voice on the committee, as well as different agencies that are users of the services as well. In section 5, there was discussion on how long the meeting should last. Now, in my mind, meetings should last as long as it takes to get the business done, if it's 30 minutes or an hour. But we know that transportation and location is important to what we are doing. And we had said previously, or maybe we omit this totally, meetings should last no longer than 60 minutes, possibly 90 minutes. And now I know at one time that was in order to organize and get the transit needs one has something that experience in transit and as well as Marilyn and James with that.
Hey, Debbie, you cut out for about a minute and a half. Uh-oh.
Let me see if I pick up my hands and not be on speakerphone. Does that help?
Oh, yeah. You actually, yeah, you sound a lot clearer, but you did cut out for about a minute and a half.
I used my handset. I was being lazy and using speakerphone.
Okay.
So what I was saying is in our bylaws currently, it says the meeting should last no longer than 60 minutes. My opinion is that the meeting should last as long as it takes to handle the business of the committee. And we had in there a possible 90 minutes. And I know that a lot of this was driven and was based around transit needs for people coming to and from the meeting and scheduling and organizing those. And that would be something that James, with his experience in transit, as well as Marilyn and Dan, can help us out with, because Dan was very valuable in our last update in helping us with things that we needed to maintain and things that could change. So, and he will also, hope I'm not speaking out of hand, Dan, would serve as our liaison in helping us present.
To extend the conference for 15 minutes, press 1.
So the next section, and I've messed up my pages here, is section 5 in meetings also. And it says we had revised, looked at, let me see, I'm having to shift from paper to paper. 11 is MTA staff, this old one. MTA staff will coordinate the recording of the minutes at each committee meeting and distribute to each committee member. Minutes of each committee meeting will be distributed to all members by MTA staff along with agendas and any reports by email unless otherwise requested. All reports, evaluations, and recommendations of the committee will be included in the minutes. The minutes will also identify committee members who were in attendance and those absent from each committee meeting. And we had discussed or had looked at amending it to say persons attending an APAC meeting have the opportunity to address the committee. This was regarding public comments. Address the committee during a regularly scheduled business meeting. Public comments are after introductions of the committee members present and approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. A time limit of 3 minutes will be allowed for presentation of each speaker. If the speaker is reading from a prepared text, a copy should be provided for the secretary. MTA staff will ask for anyone requesting to make a public comment prior to the start of the meeting. Names and addresses will be requested for follow-up that will be provided after the meeting. And then it says there were guidelines. The following guidelines should be observed when the speaker is addressing the committee during public comments. Number 1, when called upon, the speakers should begin promptly speaking clearly and state their name and address. Number 2, the speaker should identify the organization being represented, if any. Number 3, the speaker must limit remarks to 3 minutes. Number 4, the speaker may direct questions only for follow-up by MTA staff after the meeting. Questions will not be responded to on the day of the meeting. Number 5, members of the audience must refrain from audible comments and or applause during the meeting. Under no circumstances may any audience member interrupt a speaker or otherwise attempt to intimidate or discourage a speaker from addressing the committee through audible comments or noise making. Number 6, no speaker may indulge in personal attacks on any committee or staff member. The chairperson will revoke the speaker's privilege to address the committee if this rule is violated. Number 7, once a public hearing has been closed, no further audience participation is allowed. Violating this rule may result in removing the violator from the meeting room. And I will tell you that really is, I think will save us a lot of time, because in years past, we've had some public comments that got out of hand. Also, public comments, I know at one point that were more than 3/4 of the meeting, leaving us little time for us to be able to conduct the business at hand. So the public comments are very, very important. I don't want to discount that, but we also need to have process and procedure, and that does follow along with some of the other most intergovernment committees as well. So Tom had spoken on the electronic meeting, and we've had that at Rochelle Center since 2013. And I'm going to read you what we have, and of course it is up for change. And also Dan will have to let us know in a government committee meeting if this is allowable. But any committee member may participate in a meeting of the committee by means of conference telephone or similar communication equipment if all persons participating in the meeting can hear and understand each other. Participation in a meeting under this section constitutes presence in person at the meeting. So it's very, if we were to have in-person meetings, and I don't know what the accessibility and what the options may be in our meeting room, but it would be good for us to be able to adopt, even if people could have an option to Zoom in or have an option to call in through a speakerphone or to conference them in so that they could participate, because that is very important. Sometimes, as Mr. Forbes responded, even if there's a weather issue or something, we would be able to still meet. And a lot of times during this COVID time, this has certainly made us be a lot more creative in how we meet and how we do a lot of things. So that's something that's an option that might encompass and cover that electronic meeting. And then under bylaws, I know that James had discussed, and I do think this is something that's important, and Walter and I had discussed it briefly, but the chairperson shall preside at all committee meetings, but that also the chairperson or their designee to report in person at the MTA Board of Directors meeting a minimum of 2 times a year, and to provide the opportunity for people to advise in how that we need to provide excellent transit services. The reason being is that it's important for us to have space in the overall transportation. The mayor is proposing an increase in services, and we want to make sure that we are there to be able to do that, and that would be either the committee chair or their designate that they could determine. The other thing is right now the bylaws are to be, hello? Somebody needs to mute their phone. Can you mute them, Tanisha?
I don't have a way to mute them on this conference line. I think it's on the conference line.
The other thing is the chairperson will appoint a bylaws review committee to provide updates to the bylaws as needed. I don't think that we need to be saddled with every 2 years or a time frame, because again, it's just like meetings that you have. A meeting should be able to last as long as it's need to conduct the purpose and the needs of that committee. If the bylaws need to be changed, and I will assure you, many organizations are changing their bylaws just over what John was talking about on the Zoom meetings and electronic meetings and what's really considered presence at meetings. That would give an opportunity to do that. So that is what I had, a brief summary.
Hold on, Debbie. Excuse me. Sorry, someone was trying to get your attention.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm on the phone. I'm not. Who is trying to get my attention?
It was just me. I thought I might have been muted.
Who was trying to get?
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Never mind. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
okay. Okay. I just wanted to jump in real quick and to kind of I lost my thought that quick because I was trying to get through. Sorry. But I think that we just have to make sure that in adding the electronic meetings that'll still allow us to be to add electronic attendance to the meetings, that will allow us to still be in compliance with the TOMA, which is kind of where we were looking at earlier this month. And to answer April's question earlier when she was asking, do we have something to vote on? That's what the initial attempt was, to vote to have virtual meetings. But that's why we're not voting on that now, because that is not in compliance with the TOMA. But what Debbie is explaining might be in compliance with the Tennessee Open Meetings Act. And even in speaking with the Comptroller's Office, because of the type of committee that we are, and that we do have people with disabilities and serve people with disabilities, and the public who will be attending may be people with disabilities coming in, that could be a quote unquote accommodation. So like Debbie is explaining, if we get that added in and we can run it through the board, run it through legal and everything, even if we're able to do that, as long as it lines up, we will still be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. But April, I thought about that after the fact when you mentioned voting. That's what we're not voting on. Yep.
So these are just draft form. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, Natasha and James and myself and Walter will get together, and anyone else who, after hearing this discussion, has a burning desire to help us through this. This is, again, bylaws are a framework in which to act. You don't want to create policies in your bylaws. Policies are a different situation. Bylaws are framework, and the policies are like the house that's inside the framework with all the rooms and everything. We want to make sure our structure for our meetings are correct, and then we can create policies if needed around it, if that makes sense. So that's all I have, Natasha.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Unless anyone has any questions.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions about the bylaws? And real quick, before we take questions, everyone should have received an attachment from me that has the bylaws included. If you did not get it, just let me know and I can send it to you. At the beginning of the meeting, we talked about some things that we can do and work on moving forward regardless of what our meetings might look like. This is one of the things that we can look at and be working on, whether we meet in September or not. So if you can just review the bylaws, look them over, take into consideration the important things that Debbie has pointed out, as well as take into consideration some of the things that you might notice in the bylaws that needs a little bit of consideration or amending. We can do that, even without a meeting. And just if you think of something, or like Debbie said, even if you're not on the committee, if you review it and have an idea or a potential recommendation, you can send that to me. And do you want them to send it to me, Debbie, or to me and you, since you're the chair of the committee? And Debbie has graciously stayed on as the chair of the bylaw. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
okay.
can send it to me, copy you, and copy James. I think it's good for us to be able to see and hear things, at the same time, and to keep us online on point with any discussion. So my preference, if that's okay, would be for us to all be copied so we can all see the information together at once, and that helps us stay all up to date in the conversation, where we're not coming in like in the third email or something.
Even better idea. Yep. So just send it out to the whole group. Yep. Because like I explained in one of the emails, unfortunately, subcommittees cannot meet either. Subcommittees still fall under the Open Meetings Act, and the Bylaws Committee is an open committee. But what we can do is communicate, at least through email. I would like to send this recommendation. I'd like to send that recommendation, so that you know, when we do get back up and rolling, however that looks like, we already have that work mostly done, if that makes sense. That's one of the ways that we can kind of keep going and we don't get stifled. We can keep rolling once we get back, you know, whatever our meetings look like moving forward. Does anyone have any questions for Debbie regarding bylaws and anything that she said or any thoughts that you might have?
This is April.
April.
I got the current bylaws, but I was wondering if you could send out the proposed changes that Debbie just went over.
We will send out all of the proposed changes when they are all compiled, because unless you're just wanting the ones that she has now, or is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, you mentioned keeping in mind what she had already gone over, and there's no way I'm going to remember all that. That was a lot of detailed changes.
Mm-hmm. Debbie, when you get a moment, are you able, you don't have to kind of go into a whole lot of detail, but just compile together some of the things that the committee has already worked on and send it out to the group so that they'll, like April said, so that they'll know what's already being considered. Is that possible? Do we still have Debbie?
Ooh.
Let's see.
This is James.
Yeah, Debbie's still on here. Hey, James. Go ahead.
So has anyone heard anything in the proposed changes that puts up red flags for them, they don't like, any of that stuff?
This is April again.
Yes.
The only thing that stood out to me was with the talks of expanding the in-person public meetings to include connections, virtual connections, conference line, Zoom platforms or whatever, that it said something related to people being able to hear and understand. I don't like that phraseology.
Mm-hmm.
More about it, as long as people can effectively communicate into and out of, something about effective communication, not hearing.
Okay.
Because there's different, you know, we may have a person who speaks sign language, uses sign language, that may participate and doesn't use the audio sensory way of communicating.
Gotcha.
Tom Hanks, and I also have a couple of concerns. Mainly taking off any time limits for the meeting. You know, we're all individual people, and while we all have, you know, constraints as to how to get to the meetings, we also have time constraints as far as this comes out of our individual days. So, you know, while I think maybe 60 minutes might not be inappropriate, I think we should have a, you know, a goal, and then a hard cap. Also, a goal, you know, say the goal is 60 to 90 minutes, and then a hard cap of maybe 2 hours.
I tell you
whatever.
what, you call me back in 1 hour.
Right.
I'm in a Zoom meeting right now.
So I know John is talking, and some of you may not have heard.
Yeah, call me back on my
John
cell
was
phone.
saying that he believes there should be some sort of hard cap time limit on our meeting. Maybe not necessarily 60 minutes,
Call me back
but
in
some
1
kind
hour
of cap.
on this number.
Is there anybody who can mute?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, James. Hey, John. John, if you can hear me, just wanted to let you know that you were off mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. We just didn't want you.
My phone ringing. It's because today is my birthday.
All right.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. This could be bad if we all sang together.
Y'all sing when you want to close the meeting. Everybody will leave.
Hello, everyone. We were cut off.
This is April.
Hello, this is Tanisha. We were cut off. We're back.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I totally didn't even realize that.
When we got quiet, that's what happened. When Debbie stopped talking, right after her presentation, we were cut off.
I had no clue. I had no clue. I did ask for Debbie to respond to April, and that should have been an indicator right there. Sorry about that. But
sorry, you all.
No, that's okay. We know that these things happen, but John is our birthday boy, so we need to definitely acknowledge him before we get off the phone. But just to reiterate.
Well, hold on, Natasha. Debbie was asking if April could re-ask her question because she couldn't hear her.
I was going to get to it. I just wanted to first make sure that everyone heard what Tom was saying, because Tom was making a comment also. Tom was just saying maybe not a 60-minute time limit, but we do need a time, consider some level of time minutes so we can have a time frame to shoot for the amount of time for our meetings. And that'll also help with people being able to schedule a ride to go back home. April, did you want to pose your question to Debbie again about getting the current proposed considerations?
Sure. This is April. We do have, or should have, a copy of the current bylaws, but I was wondering if we could, as a committee, get a copy of the proposed changes that the committee, the bylaw committee has already worked on. That way we're maybe not sending in suggestions that have already been proposed.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Respond also to John Forbes' comment regarding the time limits. I currently at Rochelle Center, our agendas for our board are time framed. We have a certain amount of time. The meeting is an hour and a half. We have certain amounts of time that are allotted. Where we run into trouble is we never know, and unless, of course, that's part of our necessity is to hear the public comments. That's what prolongs and extends the amount of time that we have. And so that I think is one of the barriers that we have in getting a concrete time frame that it's going to be an hour and a half, because we can't project what the public comments may or may not be. We've had meetings where public comments have been three quarters of the meeting. So I think that, that's something we need to look at, and possibly Dan can tell us how that's handled in the regular MTA board meeting, because they as well address public comments. So that was my comment based on John's, and yes, ma'am, April, I will get these to you, to everyone. I'll get it to Tanisha and Natasha for them for whoever to send out.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? Go ahead. Go ahead. Thought I heard someone trying to connect. Any other concern? Oh, go ahead, April.
Sorry, I thought somebody else was going to, but maybe they'll tap back in. I was in continuation of the time frame. Yeah, I mean, I know me personally that the transportation piece would be a factor at sometimes, right? I mean, I know that now I'm comfortable using Lyft, but there's still that means that it comes out of my pocket, not covered by by the perk of getting a free ride to and from the meeting via our trusty WeGo transportation drivers. And that, so I just don't know. So I'm just asking, is there an option to cap the time frame, the total time frame for the public comment period? We know that there's 3 minutes each, but could we say 3 minutes each, and we give a block up to 30 minutes or whatever? I'm just throwing a number out.
I think sometimes it's kind of hard.
Question. Dan, do you have any counsel or advice on that since Walter isn't present?
Honestly, this is not my area of expertise, but my understanding of the way that the sunshine laws for open meetings operates in Tennessee is you cannot limit the number of comments based on a time limit or other factors, that any member of the public should have the opportunity to comment. So I think the way that you address that in general is by strictly enforcing the 3 minute time limit to make sure. And you could always have 25 people show up at a meeting for a particular issue, but for the most part, and this is true for our directors meetings as well, you kind of know when you may have that situation and can adjust the schedule in advance to accommodate that. I think in terms of having a limit on the schedule, yes, transportation is one issue, and I do think we do need to also just be sensitive to the fact that many members, committee members, as well as members of MTA staff are, taking time out of work days to attend the meeting, and some need to go back to work or attend other activities. And I would just hate to put us in a situation where a number of members were, had to leave and you lost quorum on something because of, the meeting being so long that people were not able to stay in attendance.
How do you handle that with the MTA Board of Directors?
We strictly enforce the 3 minute time limit. I don't think the MTA Board of Directors has a specific end time for the meeting. It does change depending on what's going to be covered in the agenda, but generally speaking, they try to strictly enforce the 3 minute time period for public comments and limit the discussion on specific, action items or information items to those particular topics.
Hi, this is Miriam. So I just wanted to echo what Dan said, that the 3 minute time limit at the board meetings is strictly enforced, as is the time limit at other public meetings. I've certainly attended planning commission meetings where a large group of us have been in attendance in support or opposition of an issue that is being presented. And after a certain number of people have spoken either in support or opposition of that item, oftentimes the chair of the commission will say, can I get a show of hands of anyone else who is feels the same way about this issue? We recognize you. If you don't have any new information to share with us, we would appreciate being able to move to the next item. And so there are ways of facilitating the meeting to be able to get to continue the meeting moving forward. And I'm happy to talk more about that, Natasha, if you'd like. But when we have had larger issues, like last year when we needed to bring the major service changes and fare increases to the
Alexa,
board.
what time is it?
we had a large group of people in attendance giving public comment. Everyone was given a time limit. We went through all of the public comment and made sure that we had a time frame long enough for that particular meeting itself. That helped with getting through that meeting. But typically a meeting lasts an hour or less for the MTA board.
Okay.
And one thing that I would like to add to that is that we do have the public comment cards. So when an individual fills out the card, then we do have their public comments, and that can be documented that way. And since we're not able to respond anyway, and the cards also have their address, then our staff or whomever can reach out to that individual to say, to give them a response or to follow up with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say,
so we have to pretty much have to direct them to the public comment cards. And if they need assistance filling it out, then we can help them fill out the public comments if we move in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just wanted to add, and I think that's something that Dan said or somebody else said.
Hold on. Patricia, hold on for just one moment.
Oh, okay.
Debbie was saying something. I don't think you can hear her.
I was thinking that I just wanted to make sure, and Dan confirmed, because if people are there for public comments, and Miriam made a very good recommendation. I have seen that on Metro Council meetings as well, where they will say the public on behalf and how many people are there to speak changes, and they get a barometer from there. So I think that what Miriam is talking about us doing is a policy on what our policy is, and maybe Dan can look to see if there's a policy, written policy for the MTA board that we can mirror, because we are part and parcel of that committee, and the work that this committee does is valuable and important input for that board to be able to disseminate excellence in transportation throughout Nashville. That is the important thing, and that the voices that people have riding transportation, different, the Access Ride or WeGo or is heard. So I just want to always err on the side of making sure all those comments are heard, having sat through many, and a lot of times business is not completed, and I think we do have the opportunity in the way our meetings are run, in that the public comments are after the minutes. So at least we have done the exact specific things we may not get through the reports, at which time the reports could be emailed to everyone if the public comments went longer. But I think that is Miriam has a really great, I think that's a really great guidance on that, and we'll just try and move toward that.
Patricia had a comment?
Yes, I just want to, I remember, that there have been some times that we don't have a public comment at all. There have been many, many times like that. But, when our public comments have been there and a lot of people have attended the meeting, and these meetings are the ones that have extended to a point that, or we were supposed to be just an hour and were not able to finish the business part. It was because there's some specific big issues going on, and big changes. So so somebody said something about, yes, that we need to when we know that there's changes and things going on that are really affecting and people wants to speak about it, those are the meetings that probably will need to be more aware. Or if we said, okay, if we're going to have a 1 hour meeting of business, we probably need to make sure that everybody that's here is going to speak. It's true. We have those complaint cards, Tanisha, but if people is coming there, they want to talk, they want to hear, they want to be heard. I mean, so, I think that we will have to have that flexibility when we know something's going on, that there's a possibility that we're going to have a lot of, public comments coming in. So the meeting cannot be done in an hour. It will have to be extended, at least half an hour or 45 minutes because it had happened before.
Right.
Just, I just think that we need to keep that in mind when we decide, when that policy or whatever it is decided to do about the time frame of the meetings.
That's a good point. So just to ask the committee so that Debbie and the bylaws committee can just have a general time frame in mind, just ballpark, what is a general time frame that you might be comfortable with? Is 90 minutes? Just being honest, we know that 60 minutes doesn't work. We're past 60 minutes
I would
now.
say 90 minutes. I would say to give us a 90-minute frame.
Okay, and of course
That's my
not written in
opinion.
stone just yet, but just to give Debbie a time frame to think about. So 90 minutes, 2 hours. What are y'all thinking?
This is Roger. I would suggest 90 minutes with a option of extending an extra 30 minutes in that case. And most people that do use rides can schedule their rides, about 2 hours out anyway. So if you have an idea it's going to be a long meeting, you'll know that you may have to use that extra 30 minutes. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Anyone else have a different time frame suggestion?
This is Sheila speaking. I think 90 minutes sounds good. How long was it? Refresh my memory. How long was it when we were meeting live before?
Our meetings have generally been running between an hour and 45 to 2 hours, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe we could
my
that in mind.
Probably 90 minutes.
This is April.
Go ahead,
Did you all
April.
hear Debbie? Did you all hear Debbie?
Oh, no.
Oh, I wonder why we can't hear Debbie. Sorry about that, Debbie. We didn't hear you. Can you, if Debbie can respond, and then April.
Yes. The current time frame is meetings should last no longer than 60 minutes. And again, my thought process is meetings need to last as long as they need to last in order for the business of that committee to be done and the purpose of that meeting. And out to the side, it had in red possible 90 minutes as the change. And of course, we could take Roger's recommendation and say meetings should last no longer than 90 minutes. But on occasion, meetings may be extended up to 30 minutes to accomplish the completion of the meetings or something. Would have to come up, Dan, I'm sure, can help us, or Miriam, with some verbiage, Walter, to see.
I'm a big proponent. This is James. Oh, was
Hold on,
April
James.
next? I'm sorry.
Hold on, James.
I cut in front of April.
Yep.
Go ahead, yeah, given since my experience with APAC, that we were consistently doing the hour 45 minutes to 2 hour meetings without tons of public commenting. There might have been 1 or 2, maybe 3 at a meeting. So we had a lot of deliberation just amongst each other, the committee members, and conversations with the taxi services and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm leaning towards 2 hours, but I don't think we could just, if we say or extend it up 30 minutes, that's still capping it, doing a hard cap as far as phraseology. So it would have to be more like something like, or as long as, as public comments, determine it, or something like that, like adjusted accordingly.
Yeah.
on
We can,
public comment
we
time.
can try and look at some garbage and come back with something now that we see
And then the rest of the agenda, I mean, we could maybe try to be.
to run.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry.
Hold on. We got 2
Five.
people. Okay, hold on, everyone. We got 2 people talking at the same time. I think that for some reason we're not able to catch Debbie when she starts talking, but April, if you could finish your thought, and then James, if you can make your comment, and
Just
then
real quick, I just have to go. I just want to let you know that I need to go. I was supposed to have a meeting at 12 o'clock with the parents, so I am already late. So I just want to let you all know that I have to leave the meeting.
Have a good day,
Thank
Patricia.
you, Patricia.
And
Thanks,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's okay.
Zoom meeting.
April, if you could finish your thought, then James, then Debbie, and then if there's no additional comments, we'll go ahead and move on. Go ahead, April.
Sure. I was thinking that, but maybe outside of the public comment section, we can maybe try to be a little more mindful of time frames in the agendas, because pretty much every meeting I go to says, okay, we're gonna have discussion about this update for this long period, this amount of time, and things like that, and that can maybe help us to go towards our goal, whether it be 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever is decided on. But yeah, it sounds like we're going to have the flexibility for the public comment part, but we can be a little tighter on the organization of the rest of the agenda.
I agree with that. I'm really big on agendas. So I really agree with that. And I'm also big on, if general communication can be done either by the chair or amongst the committee in electronic form or an email, then that might cut back on some time too, because instead of explaining, this is who I talked to, this is what happened, this is what they came back, this is what Thomas said, I put it in an email, because that cut out probably 10 minutes, right? Right there in the agenda, explaining to you guys, what I got back from the comptroller's office. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, April. I know for sure I can commit as the chair moving forward that we can have a pretty mindful agenda, stick to it, and move on from there. James?
Yes, I'm a big proponent of keeping things kind of congruent. So for example, if we kind of run parallel with the MTA board. So if the MTA board meetings are 90 minutes, I'm good with keeping our meetings at 90 minutes too. Also the comptroller's office.
I lost James.
No, James is still here. Can you not hear James, Tanisha?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
I can hear him.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Go ahead,
Okay.
James.
All right, Tanisha, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'm really big on keeping things congruent. And so since we do run parallel with the MTA board, I really would like us to sort of just emulate what they do. So for example, we're going to have our subcommittee meetings at least in person, or at least in part or in majority in person. So we already know that. So I know it's a little bit inconvenient, but if we have our subcommittee meetings right before our main committee as a whole meeting, I think that would make it more simpler. Also make it easier for other people to attend. It would be predictable. So Bill's just saying that he has to hop off. So we'll see you later, Bill. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Bill. Just saw that.
Bill.
But yeah, that would be my 2 cents to kind of throw in there. And I know it would be easier, on the MTA staff as well, because, if our rules are pretty consistent, it's going to help. So that's just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do we have any other thoughts just on amending the bylaws If not, this conversation isn't over just because this part of the agenda is over. That's the purpose of bringing it up now. So if you have any other suggestions, recommendations, thoughts, or concerns about what has already been submitted or reported by Debbie, like Debbie suggested, send those emails and send those recommendations to the group as a whole so that we can all be abreast to what's going on. And I'm sure she'll compile them and I'll compile them as well, so that we can easily put them together, because once all of this fun work is done, before we do anything, just remember that the committee will have to vote on it first. We have to vote on any changes to our bylaws or any recommendations. So you will be fully aware and will have a say in that, and then it has to go to the board. So just know that at some point, hopefully soon, we will present that to the committee for a vote. We just need to, I just wanted to bring this up because it's been since 2016 since the bylaws have been amended. And I just wanted to make sure that we try to go ahead and wrap that up soon so that we can have some fresh, newly amended bylaws moving forward as a committee. So if we don't have anything else about bylaws, we're going to move forward quickly to discussing just growing and diversifying our committee. I know that Patricia wanted to make some comments about that, and I understand that she had to get back to work, but I do kind of know where her thoughts were with that. So, and Debbie also, in discussing the bylaws, also mentioned some important things about growing our committee as well. So there's two sides to this coin. We need to grow and diversify our committee, number one, because our bylaws currently say that we can only have a minimum of 12 sitting voting members on the committee. We're at a total of 13. So we're getting really close to the edge that we are required to maintain according to our bylaws. So if for no other reason, we need to grow it because we're really close to that 12 mark. And if 2 people have to fall off, then we're no longer a viable committee. But outside of that, we just want to grow and diversify our committee to have more voices, more representation, more representation of the true demographics of our ridership. We have a great group now, but there's other areas where we can grow. We have veterans that uses Access Ride. We have the aging community that uses Access Ride. We have people who use wheelchairs who use Access Ride. We have the DD and the ID community who use Access Ride. And we can have at least one or more than one representative of a demographic on the committee as well. So that's another thing that we can talk about now. And even after this conversation ends in the meeting, that's something else that we can also kind of keep thinking about, working on, sending recommendations forward after this meeting, regardless of whether we meet in September or how that looks moving forward. Before I open it up to questions and comments, if you have any suggestions for an agency / individual that may be a great candidate for this committee, send that information to myself. And I don't want to put Patricia out there, but since she's not on the line, but send it to myself, and I'll see if Patricia is okay. Well, you know what? No, don't send it to me. Send it to the group. Send it to the group. Send it to the group, so that we can all be a part of that conversation. Send it to the group, and not only just let us know who they are, let us know what they represent, whether it's just themselves as a consumer or a particular demographic that Access Ride represents or serves, so that we can grow this committee. Any thoughts on that?
This is April.
Go ahead, April.
Are we talking about recruiting writers only, or representatives from agencies as well?
Both. And and if you remember, Debbie even mentioned earlier as possibly adding this to our bylaws, specifically identifying. Did you say specifically identifying agencies or demographics that we want to make sure is represented on the committee? I can't remember exactly how she put it. But April, to answer your question, both.
Hold on for Debbie,
Okay.
were you speaking?
Yes, let me go back to my phone because when we initially started this process, we looked at some others bylaws for other government committees that provide advice and counsel to the larger group. And one we looked at was the Walk By Committee. And the Walk By Committee does list specific groups. And I mean, we can go either way. It's totally up to what the group thinks. I think that if you do include certain groups and we can get buy-in from them, then we always have representation from those groups. Even if they fall off, then, you know, it would be up to XYZ group to then provide us with another person, because again, it's to their advantage to have a seat at the table and a voice for those that use the service. So it was purely, and when the Walk By Committee, their bylaws were drawn up, they were drawn up during Carl Dean's term, and he, coming from the legal counsel portion arm of Metro Government, sought their advice, and their legal counsel's Metro Government drew up the bylaws and basically handed them down on marble tablets. So it's either way, it's just a representation on trying to grow and make sure that you have people that are seated at the table who utilize the service and who can make recommendations and give advice and counsel on how their service actually is. So that was
true. Well put. Yep. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Perfect. I saw someone's picture pop up. Does someone have a question or a statement, or is about to say something?
Yeah, this is Tom Hanson. The one issue I have with identifying specific groups, number one, you are putting a responsibility on other outside entities if you codify them into the bylaws. Number two, if you have, as we currently do, a cap on the number of representatives to APAC, and then you enshrine certain groups, then you're basically crowding out other groups who might want to come in. So if you have a hard cap of 18 members and you specifically say, well, we need 5 members from these specific organizations, now you only have 13 open slots. And if you have other organizations that, you know, you're capping outside influence basically that way.
Mm-hmm. That's
May
noteworthy.
I respond to that? The current bylaws, section 4 of Article 1 state, there shall be no more than 24 and no less than 12. So the proposal was to bring the no less than up to 18. So there is no reason why you could not expand the number. The opportunity that we're seeking is to be able to have all voices represented. You have to have a balance of the agencies that are impacted through service delivery, as well as a balance of the consumers that are not necessarily affiliated with those, to make sure that everybody's voices and ideas are heard, because that's how we learn and grow. So I think that what we want to do is make sure the committee's large enough to make sure that everyone's voice, a representative amount, is heard, but not so large that it becomes unwielding, because I've been on some of these Zoom calls where there are 100 people on it, and those are very difficult. So that was the right now it's no less than 12. So the recommendation that was prior was no less than 18 and no more than 24. And
Okay.
certainly those numbers would be up for discussion.
What I'm saying is, regardless of what the actual numbers are. If you have a cap and then you're going to enshrine some, minimum number of specific agencies, then you're necessarily crowding out others. So and there are a lot of competing agencies. For instance, I happen to represent the Middle Tennessee Council of the Blind. There is a competing agency called the National Federation of the Blind. Well, if we enshrine one but not the other, that could create certain problems. And then if you enshrine both of them, that now people are saying, well, why are you giving so much credence to this one community? I just think it creates more problems than it solves. And if you have, as we currently have, just a minimum number and a maximum number, I think that fixes a lot of things, since you do have people, voting these agencies in. You're not officially enshrining anybody.
This is Sheila speaking. I am actually a member of the National Federation of the Blind, and I'd like to say I don't consider it a competition.
Agreed.
I think, just blind, maybe within different, like blind and wheelchair and what, deaf, rather than specific agencies. Maybe that's a thought.
Well, the point was, we are these that represent, the different segments of the same community that being blind, visually impaired. So if one is enshrined but not the other, then questions are, well, why this one but not that one? And then other people from other communities can say, well, why are you enshrining two representatives of the blind community but only one from my community? It creates a can of worms, in my opinion.
Yeah, Tom, this is James, if it's okay to talk to Tasha.
Go ahead.
So I share similar concerns with Tom, and also kind of a piggyback concern is that when you have these things built into your bylaws and you have as many groups as we might potentially have, then when you want to change one, you have to change the bylaws. And, that's not always so easy to do. It has to go before the MTA board. They have to approve it, I'm assuming. I would prefer, and this is just a preference, that we give this task to the nominating committee to keep an official list, but a list that's very easily changed. And of course, the nominating committee can present that to us and we can change it at will, versus a more complicated situation where we would have to change the bylaws.
If I could interject, let me ask a quick question, because and Sheila, I did hear your point as well. I think that we all have the same goal of just wanting the ridership to be represented, and so that everyone can have a seat at the table and everyone's voice can be heard. Tanisha or Dan, I want to make sure I word this right. My HR degree is coming in. Got to be careful with some of the wording. Can the committee be made aware of the demographics of the ridership? We don't need to know numbers because that's legal. Like, we don't need to know there's 700 visually impaired, 200 this. If are you all able to let us know, like, the demographic of the ridership? We have people with disability, people with wheelchairs, we have this, we have that, we have veterans, we have whatever, so that we can take that, juxtapose that to the representation of the committee, and we'll know exactly where we need to target.
Well, Natasha, my response is that our agency represents the demographics is across the board. And so I may not always be aware during the eligibility process of all individuals' disability types, because they may have, for example, their heart doctor fill out the paperwork, but they're using a wheelchair. And in addition to that, they go to dialysis, but only their cardiologist fills out the paperwork, and they don't always put all the diagnosis in there. But I will say, based off of my experience, every disability type that you can think of is represented throughout the agency for access.
Okay.
So there's
Natasha, this is Debbie. Can I offer a olive branch here after hearing Tom and James. Because I think, again, that's what we're thinking about, framework versus inside the house. So if we look at this and say that we're going to, it kind of falls into almost an unwritten policy, what I'm hearing, of trying to attract the demographics, and possibly we don't list that. Maybe we've defined our purpose we've defined our mission and our purpose. So maybe we look at, as James suggested, of making sure the nominating committee is charged with looking out and into for groups that represent, instead of specifics, but possibly broader scope, where as Tom said, and I hope I'm not quoting you correctly on it, that having agencies competing, that's not what we're here to do. We're as a group are here to make sure that transportation and excellence for all people among the gamut of disabilities and elderly people, or as Natasha's brought up, veterans or such, anyone that have those. So maybe it does become that, but again, the walk by committee that Metro Legal did segregate out specifics, and there were a few specifics, and I'd have to go back and pull those out, but that there were only, I don't know whether it was half the committee or less than half the committee, I don't recall at this time, but possibly based on the comments, and I think Tom has indicated that he would like to help on the committee. So possibly we can carve out some verbiage that will reflect that and let it be a nominating committee process or policy, if that makes sense.
Yes, that committee is softly tasked with that, but there are no guidelines and steps and framework even for that committee right now in the bylaws. So what I'm hearing is maybe not say we need to put in the bylaws Middle Tennessee Dialysis Center must be on the committee, versus saying we want to have representation for the people who have to use dialysis represented on the committee.
My opinion on it is along those lines, is that you would say, we want to actively try to have a representative from at least these disability communities, dialysis, people over 65, visually impaired / blind, hearing impaired / deaf, amputees, veterans, things of that nature, broad categories, rather than specific entities.
This is
so
that was the olive branch I was restating to offer. Yes, sir.
So action item moving forward, in addition to sending the group recommendations on the bylaws and things like that, let us compile a list, since, like Tanisha said, and Tanisha and Dan, I'm sure you can look at the list and say, yeah, that looks, like the majority of is covered, or if there is something missing, you can advise us on that. But first, let's come up with a list, and also let's come up with recommendations of agencies or individuals that can help us fill those demographics that are not already represented on the committee, and we can just send that through email circles. And what I'll do is create folders, and if I get an email regarding a list, hey, let's remember to consider amputees, I'll put that on a folder. Hey, how about Middle Tennessee, Retinal Association? That goes, in another folder, so that we can kind of keep up with it, so that we're working without working, if that makes sense. We're moving the committee forward without pushing as hard, like I keep saying, regardless of what it looks like for the remaining 4 months of the year. Did anyone else have
Okay.
any additional thoughts on that?
This is April.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea of the nominating committee having maybe that can even be that section of the bylaws could be where another a tweak could be made where it says that, you know, part of the duties are to have intentional recruitment for a diverse committee body. But I would like to state that it not just be diversity and agency representation or disabilities, but diversity on race, sex, age, sexual orientation, like kind of reflective of you know, civil rights phraseology. So because that can sometimes come into play when we're interacting, you know, in our transportation.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Like everyone is trying to do. We want someone to walk into our committee meeting and see representation, you know, of all of that. All of that. Is that Title VI? I think that's Title VI. Any?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Title VI.
Yeah. So yeah.
So Natasha, the list that
yeah.
you're suggesting that we create with the demographics of the different types of disability and agencies that serve this population of potential clients and clients, do you want me to shoot that to the whole agency, or does that go just to the nominations committee? What are you all's thoughts?
My thoughts is everyone, so that we all can be aware. Because what if April thinks about a demographic and then Tom thinks about the same one and then John thinks about the same one?
Okay, perfect.
Hey, this is Dan Forsberg. I think that's, you know, a great idea, and I could even see it being, you know, a living document moving forward, and just things change in new agencies or new groups of individuals. You know, we become aware of them. And that'll also, I think, be a resource for us as an agency in terms of making sure that we're doing comprehensive outreach, not just with the committee, but with those groups directly on issues that may directly affect them.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Did anyone have anything additional to add that hasn't already been indicated?
Hi, this is Miriam. I did want to point out that the Mayor's Advisory Committee does have some good guidance in their bylaws as well that might want to be looked at in terms of representation. I believe they have a third membership from individuals with disabilities, representative disability organizations, and a third that encompasses general community members, businesses, and elected officials who have an interest in the committee.
Mm-hmm. Good point. And I think that committee's bylaws are under review as well too. So, but that's a good point. And and Mac's bylaws are online too, right? So those can easily be retracted and reviewed.
This is April.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot today.
No, you're fine. You're
I just as a representative of Empower Tennessee, I would just like to say that in the long run, whenever we can, or if we could create like a kind of like a public service announcement that can be pushed out through social media, through our newsletters, things like that. Empower Tennessee would be glad to, you know, put that on our pages as well. It doesn't have to just stay on the MTA ones. I regularly check theirs anyways and share things from their pages. So you know, just letting people know that, you know, not like, I don't think it's out there enough, like circulating, like we're expecting people to keep checking the website to go to, to come to us, like for public comments, for whatever's. And I don't think we have quite enough public presence to remind people that we're here and that this is their committee. It is the writers community. It is the writers committee, the users, the end users, and the caregivers and things like that. So I would love for us to kind of work on that or keep that in mind, and then maybe we can get some just individuals, like more involved again.
Point taken. April, are you going to remain on the nominating committee?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Okay. Point taken. Alrighty.
That was a really great suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to just catch you guys up really quick, and then we are going to adjourn. Well, no, we're not going to adjourn because we need to make John feel really uncomfortable as we sing terribly to him happy birthday before we leave. But this is not on the committee. I'm sorry, on the agenda, because it literally happened yesterday evening and late yesterday evening, so I wasn't able to get it over to Tanisha. However, I do have a quick update regarding what we talked about last time with the airport initiative. I am keeping tabs on every single thing that you guys mentioned that we want to get accomplished, because it's my goal and my heart mission that what you guys want to get accomplished, that we actually get it accomplished. So I'm going to try to keep notes of all of these things that you guys said. And one of the things that we did talk about before was the airport initiative. Stacy Nickens, who is the customer service manager that I spoke with last year, I did connect with her yesterday evening. I shared with her what we discussed, and I shared with her that I let you guys know what she and I discussed. She is absolutely excited. And before I could finish, she was like, yeah, I want to build that relationship. So she is 100% on board. The only challenge with that is moving forward. And of course, I told her that we're going to have to kind of build with that, figure out what that looks like on both ends, both legally and all of that. So at least we know that she's on board. However, the Flying Aces program is suspended right now for all the obvious reasons, for their safety due to COVID, and also because traffic in the airport is, decimated right now. But I did let her know, that this isn't something that we necessarily need to get done, and start tomorrow. We know that at some point people will start back using the airports more often, next year, next spring, next summer at some point. So we just want to have something in place so that, yep, Lori, we just want to have something in place so that when that happens, it's already taken care of. But she is 100% on board. She asked me to follow back up with her in October. She wants to talk to their legal. I told them that we will likely do the same. But that this is just the beginning of the conversation between the two entities, and over time we will try to figure out what that looks like. I would love to bring her and or a flying ace to one of our meetings, maybe early next year or at some point, not sure how it looks like for the rest of the year, so that you guys can meet her, so that she can meet you all, to start building that relationship, if that makes sense. But I just wanted to give you an update on that she's as well on board. I have made no headway right now with the sky caps. I need to reach out to Steve. I have not had a chance to do that yet, but I will definitely do that. But as of right now, I haven't had anything to add about the sky caps.
Yeah, this is Sheila speaking. Refresh my memory on the sky caps. Are they the hired
yes.
ones or the volunteers? So, okay.
Yes, the sky caps are hired, contracted workers through the airport. They're not even technically airport employees. The airport contracts out the sky cap service, and that agency, business, company hires, fires, trains, pays the sky caps.
Okay, then
the Flying Aces.
Oh, the Flying Aces is the other one.
The Flying Aces is the the BNA volunteer service
Okay.
volunteer group. They are solely volunteers. And
Yeah.
to be
Okay.
honest, I'm gonna be honest with you. I hope this doesn't offend anyone. When I walked into that room, they were like the happiest, happy-go-lucky, no problem in the world. I'm here because I want to be here type of a
Oh,
group. You know, like I'm here
I
because I
like them
want to.
better anyway.
Exactly. A lot of them are retirees.
Oh,
A lot of them are stay-at-home parents.
oh,
Like I said, they are there because they want to be there. And they do go through quarterly trainings. One of the trainings is to serve people with disabilities, but that's not their sole training. You know, that's not what they're solely there for. They're not there only to support people with disabilities. I did want to make that clear. But
oh.
because they are a volunteer service and not an employee, there are some legal things that she has to kind of think through and work through. But yeah. Anything else on that? Because that's all that I have on the agenda. So is there anything else on that or anything else that that you need to mention before we sing happy birthday?
Natasha, we were supposed to, we made a motion last meeting to get recommendations to the MTA board about the grocery delivery service.
Yes.
How are we on that?
Well, the board isn't meeting this month. And I did reach out to Tanisha to find out, what that looks like so that Tom can know. And on a side note, Tom and I are in a mutual organization. I kind of let him know then that, hey, they're not meeting right now. And I did see the notice that they're not meeting this month either. So Dan or Marilyn or Tanisha, do you guys have any comment on that?
Yeah, we actually need additional time to have a conversation within the agency on how the proposal will affect the agency and run the numbers. And so I've asked Natasha for additional time before it's presented to the board. So we're going to have some meetings to address that.
Okay. Do you know when that will take place?
I am not sure when that's going to take place, but I know that it's going to take place soon.
Okay. And you're saying how it's going to affect MTA or how it's going to affect Access Ride?
Well, just overall, everything that was proposed, how it affects the bottom line, because I know that there was a portion of the proposal where we would provide funding for the grocery, whatever company that the individual decided to go with, and how that would affect the overall agency.
Comment on that one. The proposal was a subsidy, $25 per person who signed up for either agency they wanted to. But the goal of that is to reduce your expenditures as MTA because you will be giving less rides to these people. And I did a math breakout based on the assumption that a grocery trip will cost $30 round trip. We're asking for a $25 subsidy to cancel out, several grocery round trips throughout the year. So it's a cost savings proposal.
Right.
Cost involved, but it's easily recouped by any stretch of the whatever circumstances you want to put on it.
Okay. Dan, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you have anything you would like to add to that?
Well, I guess, and maybe, Tanisha, we can regroup after this, but I thought we were looking at possibly doing a separate meeting, maybe with Tom, Natasha, anybody else from the committee to kind of go through in more detail. So we can get a good understanding of, what exactly the impact might be. I guess my main concern would be that we potentially end up subsidizing the services for customers that are already using it, and that particular scenario, there wouldn't be, cost savings to the agency. So I'd like to just discuss how we can, encourage the use of these services and educate customers about the opportunities that are out there, and then, look at, make sure we have a clear understanding of what the true barriers to customers choosing these options are. Based on the costs that were outlined, it appears to me anyways that for most customers, this would already be either very similar to or potentially less than what they're paying for access to have the groceries delivered. So I'm not sure if, if an additional financial incentive is going to have the intended effect. And so I do think, however, that Tom's absolutely right in that to the extent to which we can encourage customers to use these kinds of services, there are potential savings.
Okay.
Potential benefits to customers overall.
Real quick, I do know that we won't be able to meet in that capacity. Like, Dan, Tanisha, Tom, and I, we can't have like a side meeting about that. That won't be in accordance with TCA. And the committee, at least the committee did.
Hold on, Natasha. Hold on. He was answering.
Say that again, Dan.
Can you hear?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we certainly can't discuss
Uh-oh. Dan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I think he was going to say you can't discuss like decisions and things of that matter, but you can talk about information, benefit analysis, cost analysis, all that stuff.
If the discussion is centered around taking that information back to the committee for a decision, that type of a conversation counts. And we can't have those types of conversations that are not public. I got a lot of clarity on that. Even if we're just talking about it.
I think it's a fine line, but I think whatever they currently are able to do with the MTA board.
I'm sorry, you got just a second. Tanisha dropped out, and I think she's the one recording the meeting.
Okay, let's hold on and let her get back on. Thanks, April, because I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I said Tanisha dropped out, so give her a second.
So I guess Dan and Tanisha went at the same time.
Oh, did Dan lose too? Also?
I think Dan is gone too. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They might have been on the conference line. And
yes, I believe they are.
Yeah. Let's wait, because I do know that the conference line was the recording.
Yeah, that was where the recording was going. So.
I think, are the minutes still being recorded with the live captioning? I think that might still be up.
Yeah, it's still captioning. I can see it.
Okay. But yeah,
and the transcription should still be going.
Okay. I think whatever the MTA board is allowed to do with MTA itself, it is the same sort of pattern that we can follow. So if for example, if Dan is allowed to meet with the MTA board that's not in a meeting, official meeting, and discuss things, then that's the same kind of outline we can follow too. But you're right, there's a fine line there.
Mm-hmm. Let me go to a different screen so I can see exactly when Tanisha comes back. Okay, so one of Tanisha's connections is still going and is being recorded because I can see it. But I don't think I don't know if that's the conference line or not. In fact, it can't be because it has her name. So let's see.
Actually, she had two different names earlier.
Yeah, and I think she was iPad. Yeah, the conference line is dropped. Oh no. Okay. So Tanisha and Dan, are you guys back with us?
Well, guys, I have to go. I apologize.
Go ahead. Go ahead, James. Sorry about that. I see your
Tanisha's here.
name. Okay, Tanisha, you're there. And are we
Yeah,
still
we're back
recording?
in. We got kicked out again.
It's okay. It's okay. We just wanted to be careful. We didn't know which one of your lines is being recorded. But just to try to wrap up what James and I were trying to say so that we can keep moving forward, there is a fine line between how and when we can talk and things like that. And I think Dan was getting ready to say something. So as long as it's in compliance, I don't have a problem with it. But I just want to make sure that the committee remains in compliance. Were you about to say something, Dan?
Yeah, that was actually what I was kind of reading the transcript while we were disconnected, so I was able to kind of stay caught up. But we were just trying to figure out if we want to have a way to have a substantive conversation about the details, something like that, and while remaining in compliance with with the rules of the committee and the laws that govern it. And we can, if we need to, get clarity internally on what is and is not allowed in that regard.
Okay. Yeah. Let's communicate, Dan, via email with that so we can get clarity on that, and maybe we can see kind of how Steve and the board handles things like that so that we can kind of know. And then if we can have that conversation, we can. But if it's at all possible, can we try to have that conversation before the potential next board meeting so that we can have all of that hammered out so that if and when we can take that to the board, as the committee voted, we can do that.
And I will get together after this and talk about what the next steps there would be.
Okay, and does the board meet every month or every other month, like every month or every other month?
They usually meet every month, but this month's meeting, they didn't have any critical items to address, so the meeting was canceled.
Okay, great. All right, well, I have plenty of notes, and unless there is anything else pressing, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, technically adjourn the meeting. However, if anyone else wants to embarrass John or have some other questions, you can definitely stay on to do so, but I just, out of respect for time, I just wanted to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So John, are you still with us?
Looks like we lost him.
Well, he's still here.
No, he's still there.
Okay, maybe he's iPad.
Yeah. John, we want to sing happy birthday to you.
His phone is ringing.
Uh-oh. That's probably a happy birthday phone call. Yep, that's a John is like blowing up over there with his happy birthdays. Well, for those of you who are still on, thank you guys for this meeting. As you can see, we have a lot to talk about and a lot to share. That's why I just wanted to get us all together.
You need to wish me a happy birthday.
No.
Happy birthday.
John, we wanted to tell you happy birthday.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
I guess he is iPad.
Yeah. Hey, John, can you hear us?
And I think iPads disappeared.
John.
It just said iPad left the meeting.
Oh, shoot. So that was
Well,
him.
John, no, he's still here. On my screen, he's still here. Mine says John Forbes.
Oh, well, maybe somebody else's iPad.
I don't see John Forbes, but does he have a? Oh yeah, he is. He's up on the upper left there.
Well,
John is here. So
John, happy birthday.
happy
thank
birthday.
there he goes.
There
Happy
he
birthday.
is.
Yeah, there we go.
Happy
I
birthday,
need
John.
to go. I need to go so I can eat my
Happy
birthday cake.
birthday.
What flavor?
Oh,
All right, and ice cream.
John, what
I
kind of cake is
apologize
it?
for the phone ringing.
No, you're okay. We were waiting on you to tell you happy birthday. What kind of cake do you have?
What? Say that last part again.
We were waiting on you because we wanted to tell you happy birthday. And what kind of cake do you have? Is it chocolate?
Yeah, it's my 73rd birthday.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wonderful.
I'm really getting the attention 2 years early, so to speak.
Well, no, 73 is still, you know, a milestone. 75 is awesome, but 73 is great.
Yes.
Yep.
So I've got a few phone calls to return.
No, yeah, we understand, celebrity. We understand.
Yeah, I hadn't even eaten my lunch. They delivered it in the meeting.
Okay. Well, thanks, John, for joining, even though it was your birthday. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm here all alone in my apartment. I don't go out in the building at all.
Yeah.
I stay isolated
Yeah.
because
I
I
understand.
don't want to get that virus.
Yeah.
See, I'm in a retirement center, Wyndham South Retirement Center.
Yes.
And there are over 175 people here.
Yeah.
So I want to show my respect for them because I have to go out for medical appointments and come back in, but I do not wander around in the building.
Yeah. Understandable. Gotta stay safe.
I know, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
So I
Well,
hope
thanks,
everyone-
everybody.
Thanks,
All right.
Rebecca.
Have a good week, y'all. Week, month.
Take care, and don't forget to send these emails.
Yep. Hang on to your sanity, everyone.
Yes.
Y'all too.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye, y'all.
Bye.
I'm going to log off. Y'all have a good day.
You
too.
too, John.
Bye-bye.